Yeah, that's definitely true.
You know, so neoliberalism, the kind of economy we have, it's just like I said last time, it's just run out of road. I mean, there's nowhere for it to go anymore, and unless something really drastic is done, we're going to have the climate catastrophe. We're going
Yeah.
to have a lot more poverty. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people in America are now going to food banks. I mean, that was never the case before. I mean, there are people who will never have jobs again, and they're not old people.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I think that's a major problem from what you read that people always wanted their children's lives to be better. I mean, having been born in the '80s, I can say that I don't think there's a chance. I mean, for now, I'm just wondering about whether my children are going to have any sort of, if I'm even be able to maintain a similar standard in any respect, for my children. I think that's produced a lot of the hopelessness for sure. And the desire to just kind of get rid of the whole thing. I think that's why people are acting out in these ways, like
Yes.
voting for extreme candidates. I mean, there's not a country in the West that hasn't voted for some, or for which the votership hasn't increased for, normally, unfortunately, right wing parties. But yeah, I mean, everyone's going towards the extreme in both directions. Even Corbyn, I mean, I don't think he was extreme, but people said, he's the extreme left, a candidate that could never have seen leadership of the Labour Party 10, 20 years ago. And then he became, it was a massive shock. So I guess it is both sides as
It's his
well.
popularity among people like you, people in your generation, who are looking for a future and realize that they don't have it. They
Yeah.
don't have what they will never have, what their parents were able to accumulate. And there's a lot of people my age who think Joe Biden is just fine, who live in a dream world because they have what they want and they don't understand what the consequences are for it. And these are people who can also afford to give their children money.
Yeah.
Now, the Democrats were not looking for the black vote. They were not looking for poor people's votes. They were looking for white suburbanites. They've taken votes away from Republicans, mostly because of Donald Trump. But that's what they were courting. They were not looking. They figure black people have nowhere else to go. And I think black people who, for the most part, indigenous, like American black people, not recent migrants or black people or Obama,
Mm-hmm.
but black people who are in America,
Mm-hmm.
descendants of slaves, they're the kind of the canary in the coal mine. Those, I think, if you look at that demographic, who have negative wealth in a lot of cases, there is where in the Black Lives Matter movement, which really wasn't focused correctly, in my opinion. But I think that there are the people where you think to yourself, that was the missed opportunity. That was a missed opportunity with Trump to say, what's the problem in this country? This has always been a white supremacist country, and it still is, through and through. There's not a bunch of hillbillies with guns who are white supremacists. It's the entire country. It's the Bidens, even the Obamas, and the Trumps. They are all white supremacists. The whole history of the country is white supremacist. And you see that in what's happened to the descendants of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
They've never got anywhere. And if you looked at the real racism in the country, instead of siphoning it off into this little area that only includes Trump,
Mm-hmm.
you would see that if you look at the plight of those people, you see the problem with America. Those people need reparations, they need help, they need wealth. Someone like Obama, who's supposedly a black man, started off with $500,000 from his white grandmother. I mean, he never lived that life. He never had a descendant that came from slavery. He had a Kenyan father, and he grew
Mm-hmm.
up in a white family, and he got money. That's not the ordinary
Experience. Yeah.
experience of a black American who's a descendant of slaves. Those people are in negative wealth compared to white, even people like Kamala Harris. Indian Americans are, I think, have the highest sort of average per capita wealth for family wealth in the country.
Right.
And she's running as a black candidate who
Mm-hmm.
also doesn't have any descendants were ever slaves.
Yeah.
She considers herself Indian, but she benefits from being quote unquote black.
Are there any people in politics today who are descendants of slaves?
Jim Clyburn or someone like that, the guy who made all the black people in South Carolina vote for Biden. But he takes more money from the pharmaceutical industry than most politicians.
Yeah.
Then there's another guy, a black guy. I can't remember his name. He is also a black. He's also American, sort of descendant of slavery, black politician. But he is a representative for a place called Cancer Alley, where some of his constituents are still living around the plantations where they were slaves in the past, and they're living in huts with no indoor plumbing. And he's a big shot. He's getting a big job, and I think he might be one of Joe Biden's transition leaders. I mean, this is the kind of thing. I mean, like they say, there are always ritual rewards for people who are willing to betray their people, their tribe, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, but what I'm saying is the vast majority of the people who are being shot by police tend to be those people, those original American black people who've been there for 400 years, the descendants of those people, real American black people who have been there forever. Those are the people who are getting shot by police. Those are the people living in ghettos. Those are the people who have negative wealth and whose children will never get anywhere. Those are the people who are thrown into Joe Biden's mass incarceration plan.
Yeah.
You know, and they can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And nobody pays any attention to them. And Donald Trump was a problem because Donald Trump was the real face of America. He was the ugly, brutal, dishonest, aggressive. You know, he's the kind of person who would alienate the Western European allies and all allies, essentially. That's why they didn't like him. But then you get a guy like Biden who also represents the empire in a certain way because he's an ugly man with plastic surgery, hair plugs, false bright white teeth, and underneath he would just be a kind of decrepit man, mean, horrible, terrible record, cares about no one, even though he's got this caring Joe kind of, I don't know, thing. But that's not him. His record is terrible. He's done everything to attack the black community, particularly anybody in debt. I mean, he's just awful.
Yeah, well, it's clear he has no principles, at least, if nothing else. Or he's changed based on how the wind is blowing, the way the wind is blowing.
Yeah, because they had to make him look like a nice guy. It's never what he's been. He's a racist. He's a segregationist. Yeah. He's not different to Donald Trump. He's a liar, but he's got all the plastic surgery. He's got a phony sort of exterior. He does it better than Trump. Trump is what Biden would be without all the false bits.
One last question, Lisa, as I don't want to go on for too long. Apparently, Stephen Hawking said that humans will need to leave Earth if to continue. Do you think that that's the solution to the problems, to leave Earth and go to a different planet?
No. We're never going to go to a different planet.
Never going to go to a different planet?
No. Like I said, what we can do is we can end it. We can just let it end. And we can have the climate will destroy us, or the economy, or the way things are going. I mean, or a pandemic. Another pandemic. The next Trump could be worse than this Trump. The next pandemic could be a lot worse than the one we're going through now. We're never going to leave Earth. I think that a good idea would be, I know it's maybe a bit radical, but I think a good idea would be to forgive all the debt. Yeah. Start from zero. It's time. There are no more ideas that are going to work or change this. But that's something that could be done. And there's plenty of money, and you can't fool people anymore. There's plenty of money around. It's just all going to the people who already have it. And those people are not spending it on anything but buying back. All the money that went to the banks and the corporations in 2008 went into buying back their stock and raising their stock prices and paying themselves bigger bonuses because their bonuses, their compensation is connected directly to the share price. And that's what they did. And they have loads of money floating around at the top, and they don't know what to do with it because there's nothing to invest in anymore. Because we have no economy, we make nothing, everything is financialized. Even General Motors is in the finance business. That's what happened. There was no company that wasn't primarily in finance. So we don't have real money, we don't have real products, we don't make anything. We thought we were going to be in the service industry, but we're really just in the finance industry. And that's not sustainable for these large populations.
Perhaps all the investment should go towards a space program, which would take us
well, you could talk to Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or, their friends in the government, like Dominic Cummings. He wants to have a space program.
Oh, really? Does it? I didn't know.
Yeah, we should spend a lot of money on space. And we should go to space, and we can get. I mean, these are lunatic.
The economy.
These are lunatic ideas. We can't even run this planet where we have a sort of friendly atmosphere. I think there are. I mean, to be honest with you, if you look at the sort of people who are coming up with these ideas, I think they're the same sort of people who are buying bunkers in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And were desperate to get to see if they could enter their bunkers during the pandemic because they thought it would get worse. Right now, very wealthy people are looking for solutions to what they themselves personally, in their unbelievable selfishness and greed, where they're going to go in case of the event. They don't know what the event is, but the event is going to be one in which they leave everybody else. Like if they had a spaceship and they could all get on it, they would leave everybody else behind to die, and they would save themselves.
Yeah.
That is a psychopathic group of people, and you can't rely on them to suddenly, grow a conscience and say, why don't we help other people in the world? It's not going to happen. I can't believe it either. I don't understand it, but that really seems to be the truth about it all.
Understood. I guess we'll leave it there for today. Lisa,
okay.
Thank you for another amazing episode of The Kitchen Table.
Thank you, Ari.
Perfect.